had been warned about the Mire of Velis before I ever set foot on the reed-woven walkways. The bog does not drown you quickly. It drinks you slow, sip by sip, until you forget you were ever made for the air. I went anyway. The moon was low and bruised, and my lantern's pale disk trembled over the water like a second shivering moon. Dragonflies stitched silver lines through the mist. Somewhere to my right, a frog crooned like a broken bell. I told myself I was not afraid. I told myself I could cross before the tide breathed in and out and the path sank under its weight. The path ended in broken slats and a promise. I stepped forward, trusting the tussocks and the tight-woven mats of sphagnum. The ground flexed, sighed, and then the bog took my ankle. My breath snagged, pulled. The mossy skin showed teeth. It let me think I could win the way a cat lets a caught bird flutter. Then it took my other foot, and with a sound like a door closing softly, the Mire of Velis swallowed me to the knees. Easy, I told myself. Spread your weight. My voice came out in the high trilling cadence of my kind, unsuitable for calm. I splayed my palms and did not find purchase. Only slick, cold rot and the hair-thin roots of plants that promised nothing. The bog pulled higher. My lantern bobbed on its cord and struck my chest. I clutched it as if that thread of light could hold me where the world was solid. I knew the stories of Velis. Voices that were not voices, a heaviness that became a whisper in your bones. Give in, let go, sink and sleep. I shut my eyes. I hummed an old nursery tune to drown the whisper. But the whisper came in my mother's voice anyway. Then my brother's. Then the voice of the captain who had said I would not last a week on this planet. The bog knows your fears. Paints them with mud. I do not remember crying out. I remember the answer. A beam of harsher light cut through my lantern's trembling halo, and a human voice, rough-edged and impatient with fear, called, "Hold still! Don't thrash!" I opened my eyes to see a figure step from the cattails, boots wrapped in rags, trousers stained the color of old tea. The human's hair curled damply against his brow. He was taller than I expected humans to be, lean as a spear. He slung a coil of rope from his shoulder like a promise and squinted at me with eyes the color of the moonlit water. "Name?" he asked, as if we were trading introductions on a dry road. "Eshe," I said, "of the Lark-bridged Isles." "Rook," he said with a quick, crooked smile I would later learn meant trouble planned but not malice. "Of here." He slid forward on the floating mats as if he knew which lies of the bog to trust. His steps were a slow waltz. Set, test, commit. He anchored one end of the rope to a black-barked willow that leaned over the water like a tired old man, then knelt several lengths away from me. "Can't come closer," he said. "She's hungry where you are. But she'll bargain for weight it thinks it can keep." He nodded at the lantern. "You hold that high. You fix your eyes on me. We're going to teach it what it can't have." The rope whistled low and landed across my shoulders. He drew it snug under my arms. I felt the drag, the bog's answer, a sulky lurch as it tightened around my thighs. It wanted me. It made the whisper sweet as ripe fruit. "Leap, sink, rest." Rook set his feet and pulled. I rose an inch. The bog slurped me back too. "Again," he said. "On my count. 1, 2, 3. We became a rhythm. His pull, my breath, the bog's refusal. The rope cut into my underarms. I could taste iron. I wanted to tell him to leave me, to save himself the inevitable. But he was smiling that crooked smile again, as if wrestling a living swamp was a game he and I had secretly agreed to win. The whisper changed. It turned into my own voice, the one that had once whispered to a friend to abandon the harvest and slip away to the coast. "Told me how easy it would be to stop." Rook said, Talk to me, Eshe. What? Stories keep you lighter. Bog hates a lively tongue. I used to sing to the river. Back home. The fish would leap like bright knives. He laughed. Sing then. So I did. I sang in trills and clicks and thin notes made for wind caves and stone arches, not for this wet, lunged earth. Rook pulled on the beat. Again, he murmured, and the rope came taut, and the willow creaked in protest. I rose to my thighs, to my knees. The Mire of Velis hissed through the reeds like a thing offended. Rook swore softly. She's shifting under me. We need something more. He unhooked a pouch from his belt, tossed a handful of chalk-white powder in a circle around his feet, then blew. The powder drifted like winter and dissolved. The surface under him stiffened, an old trick of peatfolk I had heard rumors of but never seen. He took 2 small steps closer, eyes narrowed. Eshe. Yes. On 3 you go forward, not up. Whim. Elbows wide. Crawl like a lizard. I'll keep you high as I can. I can't feel my legs. Borrow mine, he said. He counted. I leaned into the rope. It burned. I forced my elbows into the moss. It gave as if it were lungs beneath a ribcage, then held. Pulled. The bog tried to turn me on my side, to slip me into an embrace that would be my last. I lunged anyway, teeth bared, song turning to a rasp. Rook's boots skidded, then found. He grunted. The willow groaned. Something within the bog sighed like a lover denied. And then my knee hit something that didn't sink. Rook hooped, a sound like a hawk's cry. Again! I dragged myself onto the floating mat he'd reinforced, rolled, and found his hands, calloused warm, pulling me the last 2 spans to the cracked wooden planks of the old path. The bog made one last greedy tug at my boot. Rook kicked at it, laughing breathlessly. Hush now. You lost. We lay there, side by side, the mist settling around us like a cooling blanket. My lantern rolled to a stop, swinging slow, painting his jawline in bronze. I realized my cheeks were wet. Hurts? He asked. Yes, I said. And I am alive. He nodded as if the 2 belonged together in his world. Alive's a good start. He helped me to a drier rise behind the willow and coaxed a fire from twig and tinder. The flame's small mouth licked the night, and steam rose from our clothes. He brewed something bitter in a dented tin and pressed it into my hands. Drink. Puts your blood back where it belongs. What do I owe you? Yes. He looked toward the bog, where the mist curled in that slow, sulky way of the disappointed. A story, he said. Another song. And maybe you tell your people the Mire of Velis is not a monster to slay but a hunger to respect. I will, I said. The promise felt like a stone set in a river, true and right and changing the flow. When the moon pulled itself free of the clouds, the reeds sang to it. Rook stood and offered his hand. Took it. We walked the waltz step back along the planks and woven mats, pausing to listen for the breathing of the bog before each commitment. At the edge of firm ground, where the rushes gave way to the scruffy birches and a path of honest dirt, I turned. The Mire of Velis lay there, patient as a sleeping beast. I bowed, because even hungers deserve that courtesy. Then I faced the human who had bound a rope to a willow and to my will. Rook, I said, my voice steady again. You saved me. He shrugged, then smiled like moonlight catching on a blade. You saved yourself. I just argued with the mud.